Hey, welcome to This Week in Gear. I'm Nick Caruso, and I am glad you stopped by because today we're talking about a product that likely affects most of you, if not just a massive portion of you, and that is Apple's new mobile operating system, iOS 14. It is jam-packed with new features or upgrades to Apple's old features in its previous iOS iterations, so there's a lot to go over, a lot to learn, and a lot you're gonna love. So, we're going to get you started with all the best features that you need to know about in iOS 14. And then later on, I'm going to chat with Eric Leimer, our tech editor, about his thoughts about the release and what maybe to expect down the road from Apple. So stay tuned for that. Meantime, if you want any more information about anything we cover in this week's episode, just check the description below, and if you're on YouTube, and I will pop links to our online coverage that covers iOS and other Apple news. And of course, we'd love you to subscribe to our feed here on YouTube and check us out on social media. And I guess it goes without saying, visit us at gearpatrol.com for plenty more news and reviews in the product world. For now, let's get started. This Week in Gear is presented by Crown & Caliber. Buying a luxury watch doesn't have to be stressful or difficult. Crown & Caliber's data-driven approach pairs Swiss-certified watchmakers with technicians and refinishers to authenticate, test, and service each timepiece they sell. Over 50,000 buyers and sellers have trusted Crown & Caliber's risk-free, convenient, and empowering process. Find your next modern classic at Crown & Caliber, the smarter way to buy or sell a watch. iOS 14 brings about big change in the Apple ecosystem, from a completely new home screen to much-needed improvements in iMessage, a brand new translation app, to more immersive AirPods. These are the 11 best new features you should really already be using. First, widgets. Widgets on the home screen is something Android smartphones have been able to do for years. Widgets allow your favorite apps like calendar, photos, podcasts, and weather to display more interactive information directly on the home screen. Apple is also introducing a feature called Smart Stack, a widget that houses multiple apps that you can swipe between. Apple claims that the Smart Stack widget is intelligent enough to learn which apps you use at different times of the day and will display them at that exact time. App Library is a new feature that basically helps you organize and find all of the apps on your iPhone on a separate page all the way to the right of your home screen. App Library also automatically organizes all of your apps into folders based on what they do. Streaming apps in one folder, social media apps in another. It can also display all of your apps in an alphabetical list. In iOS 14, incoming call notifications will only take up part of your phone's display rather than the whole thing all at once. These small call notifications work with normal phone calls, FaceTime calls, and calls from third-party apps like Skype or Slack. One of the most important new multitasking features in iOS 14 is Picture-in-Picture. It essentially allows you to watch a video from specific apps while you're using other apps. The video will appear as a small floating screen over the other apps you're using and can be moved around your screen or off it completely while still playing the video's audio. There are huge changes to iMessage in iOS 14 too, including a feature called inline replies to messages, allowing you to create threads or sub-conversations within a group text like you can in many more robust chat applications like Slack. You can also tag people within the group chat so they'll be able to see a message within one of these inline replies. It's also possible to pin iMessage conversations to the top of your conversations list. You can now hide home screen pages and apps completely in order to clean up your home screen pages and keep apps that you rarely use out of sight. Hidden apps will only live in your app library. Catching up to Google, Apple has finally added a dedicated Translate app to iOS 14, which can handle both text and voice translations of 11 different languages. There is a conversation mode that allows real-time cross-language communication as well. And travelers will appreciate the app's offline mode, which uses pre-downloaded languages to do the translation work. Siri now allows you to use voice commands to record and send audio messages to your friends. Additionally, Siri gets a new compact look. There's also a widget for the home screen called Siri Suggestions that will intelligently suggest different activities, like when to start a workout or order coffee from a specific app, based on how you use your iPhone every day. In iOS 14, your AirPods or AirPods Pro are now smart enough to know which device you're using and automatically switch to that device's audio. For instance, if you're listening to a Spotify playlist on your iPhone, but then play a YouTube video on your MacBook, the playlist will stop playing and you'll hear the audio of the YouTube video on your computer without having to manually switch everything in settings. AirPods Pro get a special update called Spatial Audio, which allows AirPods Pro to play way more immersive 3D sound. It utilizes the built-in accelerometer in the AirPods Pro to know exactly where your head is positioned in relation to the screen you're watching, and it'll then adjust the audio accordingly. Think less in-home theater and more in-head theater. Lastly, App Clips is a really interesting new feature that allows the use of third-party apps without actually downloading them. App Clips is compatible with Apple Pay and Sign In with Apple, and it's going to allow you to use third-party apps ad hoc just by scanning a QR code or a specific app clip code. Bye-bye bloatware. Eric, here I am. Can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. I can see you. I can hear you. This is all going very well.
Fantastic.
And that's a pretty appropriate thing. I can also see a little green dot at the top of my phone, which is an indicator that I have a camera rolling because I have iOS 14 installed on my iPhone. And that's what we want to chat about today.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, how are you liking it so far?
It's cool. I've been an iPhone user since the beginning, and whether you call it the cult of Mac or whatever, it's become a part of life. So I'm glad to have a pretty extensive overhaul, as I am sure other users are as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's been going over pretty well. It's interesting, because I come at this from the exact opposite perspective. I only used Android until I got the iPhone SE I'm talking to you on right now.
Right.
So I knew a lot about iOS, but my baseline is Android. So it's been really interesting to see people, like longtime iPhone users like yourself getting really excited about widgets. Because I mean that's like the probably the main feature, I would say, that that really changes the experience in iOS 14, right? Being able to put the widgets on your home screen.
Yeah. It's really weird. It's a completely different feel when you open up your phone and there's this thing that isn't a little square icon.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because that was the cool thing about Android in 2015.
Right.
And I used a lot of widgets back then. I can see a lot of the why. There's the excitement about it. Yeah, it's definitely it really changes the way that you use your phone when you can just pull it open at a glance and have all of this information in front of you. And it pairs really well with one of the other major iOS 14 features, which is the app library, which allows you to take a lot of that, the clutter of icons and tuck it away someplace else. Which is, funnily enough, is another thing that I liked about Android, was being able to do that a while ago. So as much as I'm enjoying iOS 14 now, I do have to say it's finally stealing the best Android features.
Yeah, we learned from what's arguably the best, second best, I don't know. It is. It sort of converts what has, for me, been admittedly kind of a distracting toy into something that's usable. It's a productivity tool in a lot of ways, because I can just open it. I don't have to interact really. I just get the information I need and I can move on with my life instead of being sucked in for a long time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel and I've seen sort of reports of this going both ways. Because it can be very useful to not get dragged all the way into apps to check a little notification, what's going on in here. You can sort of just see things at a glance. But I've also been sort of recently going the other way of trying to take everything off my home screen and navigate the phone mostly by the search bar. So it's I'm only engaging with things if I am actively seeking them out. I never see I don't want to see a thing that's oh, here's an interesting email or whatever that you can drag yourself into.
Right.
But that's also a arguably ridiculous way to use a telephone. So it's been interesting seeing that sort of conflict of whether I think it varies from person to person whether like having all that survey of data is like useful and like comfortable for you, or I think for other people, sort of like me, having a lot of what I found using widgets with Android and even like dipping back into them on iOS is that like having all that information at your disposal can be like sort of overwhelming. But like there's some interesting stuff in there too with I think one of the really unique things is the smart stack that has like the algorithmic widgets that you can sort of like swipe through. It's very interesting to see what the phone can surface for you, you know, instead of you having to plan it all.
Yeah, I haven't really gotten used to that yet. It's sort of ceding control to my device, but I guess, you know, I am slowly trying it and seeing how well the thing that touches me all the time knows me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things where like a lot of times that sort of algorithmic control can like surface things for you that you never would have thought you wanted, and then you're like, oh, this is great. But at the same time, like sometimes those algorithms are like pursuing goals that you don't necessarily want for yourself. So it's just like, you know, showing you the things that you engage with the most often is sort of like a double-edged sword. Like sometimes it's like, maybe I don't want to be, you know, shown that all the time.
It's very Minority Report in a very specific way.
Yeah, absolutely.
It can be useful too. So you kind of touched on this since it's iOS 14 is a massive overhaul, and in many ways it catches up with what Android has been doing for a long time. So can you more eloquently than I can put into words kind of how important this update is for the Apple ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is important. I mean, the real thing about iOS 14, and this is a whole other can of worms, but I'll just like gesture at it even if we don't really open it. Okay. So earlier this year when Apple announced that it's going to be powering all of its new laptops with ARM-based chips. So it's going to be using the same chips that it uses in the iPhone and the iPad in new MacBooks. So that means that all of Apple's devices are going to be running the same hardware under the cover. And so iOS 14 it's getting there a little bit more with some of the iPad-centric features, but this is sort of this is the first operating system to come out after that announcement that's starting to do like the hard work of stitching iOS and macOS together. You're getting a little bit of that with the iMessage update where you can now thread messages, which is very Slack-like. And you can sort of see how like iMessages can become this thing that's like, yes, it's your text app, but it's also the thing that you use in place of Slack or, you know, whatever other group messaging app on your MacBook. And it's starting to like tie all of those things together. And I think, you know, I wouldn't be surprised to find this widget stuff turning up in Mac OS and you start getting this sort of cross-pollination. It's still very early stages, but like iOS 14 is really laying some very important foundational, some groundwork when it comes to sort of stitching all of this stuff together.
Right. And, you know, speaking of the future, we know that we're expecting, we'll be expecting more devices and such to be announced in coming very, very soon and in coming months and such. But so how you think this will affect, it's sort of adopting what Mac has operating systems have been doing for a while in a way, but it's also, you think, going to influence. Do you think it'll influence those devices in ways beyond the operating system? Like, will it require more hardware changes or physical differences? I mean, is that too much to say?
It's hard. It's hard to predict. It's one of those things where, the hardware and the software are always impacting each other and affecting the way the other ones develop, and also like. Apple, I always have to remind myself that like Apple has been planning things on such a further time scale than we ever get any idea of. So it's entirely possible that when we see the iPhone 12 family come out probably in October, that there are going to be little things here and there, little breadcrumbs that we might be able to pick up on, but that Apple knows how all of these pieces are falling into place, right? And when it comes to like 2023, like suddenly everything will become clear that all of these little innovations here and there we're building towards a much larger image. So it's a fun little exercise for gadget nerds to do, to try to piece it together and see if you can figure out which way the road is winding.
Right. Well,
so you look really smart.
It's a lot to look forward to. I mean, for gadget nerds, certainly. So I want to sort of wrap this up. Don't want to take too much of your time, but the last question I have for you. So you're a recent adopter of the Apple phone ecosystem. Is there a specific sort of update part of the update that you're looking forward to, like whether it's widgets or messages or beyond?
Honestly, not particularly. One of the big things that I realized switching from Android to iOS is that like both of them have everything I need for like really like basic operation. Part of the thing that really appealed to me about iOS is I think that Apple has a set of privacy incentives that are better than the ones that Google has. But like at this point, I'm always looking forward to when a new operating system has like fun toys that I can play with.
Sure.
But I like to think I've reached at least a temporary sort of technological zen, at least for the moment.
All right, fair enough. Well, it'll be really fun to explore these features a lot more. I know we'll probably get a lot of feedback about what people think about this. So hopefully we get those comments streaming in below. And like you said, we'll look forward to what we learn in October from Apple's long-term plans.
Yep, absolutely.
Great. Well, thanks for today, Eric. Always appreciate your insights, and we'll chat with you soon.
Yeah, pleasure talking to you.
All right, later. That's it for this week's episode. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for spending some time with us. Whether you have already downloaded iOS 14 or are about to, hopefully you learned a lot about what to expect and how to use it. So we'd love to hear your opinions. If you're on YouTube, drop a comment below or find us on social media and let us know what you think of Apple's latest. For now, take care, and we'll see you next time.